Welcome. Namaste. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome. This is 2468, the eighth in a series of videos where we are talking about the minor arcana in some contemporary Marseille decks, comparing, contrasting, really the initial journey of my 2024 year with the Tarot de Marseille. So starting really simple, broad strokes, and kind of enjoying all of this. So welcome. Welcome to the coins part 2. The decks that I have on the table for you today are Jodorowsky Kamwan Tarot de Marseille and the Pip Speak Tarot. I have listed the decks in the description box below already. And we have the Tarot de Marseille. And I want to thank, sorry, I am drawing a blank. Saskia. Yes, I want to thank Saskia. Last week she mentioned La Corte de Tarot, and I decided to pull that out this week. So that is the fourth deck. And then on the right, I have the majors from the same deck that is on the far left. So those are the decks that we're going to look at today, and just spend a little bit more time talking about the coins. Namaste to Jennifer. Hello, Saskia, you are here. Welcome to Clevis and Aria. Yeah, and I really enjoyed that a couple of weeks ago. We had the majors out. We were going through the swords, and so let's do the same here and just think about how we can find wisdom through recognition of the minor major connections. Because when we are working with pip decks, the numbers take on almost a more vibrant energy than they do when we're working with a more illustrated, scenic sort of deck. And I want to also sort of preload that the La Corte de Tarot is not a straight up Marseille deck. It's really much in its own category, but it is very pippish, and I think it's a great deck to have out here today. And you'll notice that on the ace and in, I believe, some of the other cards as well too, there is a dragon. So dragons hoard coins, dragons hoard gold, and I think there's something about that energy and the tendency to have a negative image of the suit of coins, the suit of discs, denier, whatever your deck is calling this particular suit. And I thought I would read to you something quite beautiful. Again, this is from Tarot of the Holy Light, a book that I'm picking away at slowly, page by page, going back and forth, trying to absorb some of the wisdom of Christine Payne-Towler and Michael Dowers. The archetype, at the archetype level of the disc, is the symbol for your values, the things you love, to which you are attracted, which keep you close around yourself, which you keep close around yourself. So think about that. The suit of discs is your stuff that you like to have around. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be things of beauty, right? Things that make us feel comfortable, things that help us to navigate this earthly experience. Welcome, Ramon. Namaste. In alchemy, the metal gold represents not only a standard of external value to the mass mind, but also a symbol of purity and refinement compared to other metals. Gold is naturally brilliant, malleable, and warm to view and touch, with a chemical composition that allows it to blend with other precious metals while retaining its luster. Because of these qualities, gold shows forth the highest evolution of the element earth and points to the inner light that inspires all the lives playing out on this planet. And so, isn't that I don't know. I find that kind of, maybe there's something, maybe dragons have been given a bad rap for hoarding gold, in that maybe they are attracted to some magical quality within the element, within the jewels themselves. Wouldn't that sort of change the mythology of the dragon? I don't know, it just sort of really appealed to me because I like dragons. I like dragon energy. And as a mythological beast, I think that's a really mundane association to place upon the dragon. Welcome, Dee. Namaste. So I just offer that up. And this particular deck, the La Corte de Tarocchi, is even though we don't have, they're not hand painted with gold paint, you really get that beautiful feeling of gold paint on these cards. And the connection of gold and the sun. Let's remember that. Let's remember these positive qualities, things that help us to feel warm, to experience this earth, this place. And when I look at the Magician card here as a number one, standing alongside the aces, and it was just by chance I placed the majors on the far right. But I like the way he's looking back at those coins and contemplating the myriad of possibilities they hold. I think he knows. I think he knows, they know the potential within each of these coins, the malleability of these coins, in that the range of possibilities of what these ace of coins can create is endless. I wonder if he's also grateful, because it's through coins he's been able to acquire his bag of tricks, so to speak. And the artistry of the magician is one of an awareness of, I'm just thinking of, sleight of hand, and the art of the magician is one to make us feel and understand, how can I say this? The way that we can be in another dimension, in this third dimension. Like, it's like the magician creates a fourth dimension for us, or an experience of it during his show at any rate. And I've mentioned Matthew before, my friend, who's this magician and this most inspiring. Oh my God, his posts on Facebook are so inspiring. What a great light he holds for all those who wish to create. And so dragons and magicians need not have, we need not give them a bad rap. The Ace of Coins is a 1. And when we're looking at Tarot de Marseille, the 21st card is also a 1, a 2 and a 1. And you all know how these numbers sort of weave together. And if you look at the mandorla, the wreath, the center of the Visicapiscus, however you are however you view that particular shape, it's rich. It's rich with metaphor. It's rich with illusion, transition, initiation, all kinds of things. Dia offers, Camellia Elias maintains she prefers the suit of coins because if we're honest with ourselves, we all like stuff money buys, don't we? And So for some reason, I'm thinking of clean sheets, new sheets. And of course, wouldn't it be nice if we had laundered them and hung them on a line to dry? Um, but yes, money buys wonderful things that allows us to um, experience this world in a different way. And then there is another one card that may bring in connection for you, and that is the 11th Arcanum. And when I think of this Arcanum, I think of its energy of the sun, the Leo energy, the lion energy, the qualities of strength. I wonder too if there's some Manipura, solar plexus chakra here that energizes what we can do, what we can make of this coin, this single coin. This single coin that we will see taken apart into halves and thirds and quarters and fifths. And it's not, we don't see it as strong and big and bold as we do in this card. And so what might you make of an 11 and a 1 showing up in a reading? Maybe the courage to do what you need to do what you want to do with this coin. I think sometimes when this card presents itself, that can be really tricky. There's so many of us who serve and have served others for so many years, we forget to look after ourselves. And of course, I know there's lots of other types out there as well too, but sometimes we need to remember about that self-care and that self-empowerment. Building our own internal fire, empowering ourselves, making good choices so we can build the life that we want to live. I think there's great power in reflecting on majors and minors together. And it might be a new connection for you to think about strength and ace together. So just give that a few thoughts. Yeah. Oh, I just thought about something else too. So ace and sun, ace and gold, ace and first day of the week, Sunday. So there is that association as well too. And I'm just reinforcing this. It's kind of a personal thing because with my study that I'm also doing with the playing cards right now, this idea of aces as sun, Sunday, and twos as moon, Monday. I'm trying to really, scratch that in the groove, deep in that groove. And then we have this card of unfolding. And I also want to remember what I just said. And this is something that I came across many, many years ago. And I like this notion as well, too, in that in the two of any minor, we're looking at half. And neither part is as strong as the whole of the ace. And that energy becomes more and more dissipated as the number gets greater. And I think sometimes forget about that nuance because we think, okay, well, 10 coins is more than one, but that's only one way of looking at this, right? And if you're thinking about currency, and maybe this is about, maybe you could also look at this as, so that gold coin is, let's say it's a hundred, it's a $100 coin, or a 100 lira coin, or whatever. And what we're looking at here is 250s. Why do we separate? We separate to know something. We separate to know something. This is such an important card for me in terms of all relationships, all relationship questions, the Lover's card, um, any of the cards where we're looking at duality and separation and reflection. And I like the High Priestess here. I like the High Priestess here because it reminds me that in order to understand the challenges that any relationship presents, I need to look within. I need to look deep within. And when I catch myself focused on the external rather than the internal, it's a good thing. So there's many layers to this card. Yes, it's that flowing, little change card, little world card for sure. But it also is a card, an important card of reflection. And I like that flow of energy. And when I think of Le Pendu, another layer that won't sort of go away is the idea of Le Pendu and Neptune, or water energy, and um, wandering in the mind, wandering in the subconscious. And then we have the two, um, you know, the two branches upon which that rod is placed, where the hanged man is hanging. Suspension. And remember, if you're going to use the keyword sacrifice, that we have sacred within that word as well too. And so there's something sacred in separation. There's something sacred in relationship. And if we're looking at the Two of Coins as a relationship card, then we're looking at it in a very, can be really difficult in the Two of Coins, right? Because we're talking about finances, household finances. We're talking about things that are very real in the here and now. Among a million other things. But yeah, Two of Coins is, I think it reminds me that I want to let things flow. I want to let this energy flow. It's so good to give and to share. The more you give, the more you get. Though that kind of expression, like, let's be really mindful of that. Hmm. I don't know. I just think it's really fun. It's really fun to build the layers. And what I was saying about Two and Monday is the moon, and the moon energy is very changeable, right? It flows easily. It's only in any given sign for 2.5 days. And I think that's another, maybe that's a reminder how easy it is for these things to slip through our fingers. And so to enjoy the moment and to be in the moment and to treasure relationship and make relationship sacred. And so here on the 3, we have an accumulation or we have a creation. We begin to accumulate, but we accumulate through the 2. It's because of, thanks to the 2, the 3 is here. And we see the fruit of the 2. I love the way that it's illustrated more clearly in this black card here. It's almost like the baby is in the heart. And you can see that in the marshmallow, not the marshmallow, the Tarot de Marseille and the Jodorowsky Come deck as well too. It just feels more, the heart seems to be more emphasized there. The Empress. One of the things about the Empress, and we'll talk a lot about the major arcana at some point, but to honor the fact that the Empress and the Emperor are counterparts for one another. And I mentioned in my last hour, I mentioned Anna Turian's long video about her new deck. And one of the things she does in that deck, which I don't have in hand, is for me, she switches the energy of the Empress and the Emperor, in that the Empress is a cosmic eye. So the Empress is higher consciousness, and the Emperor is within a mountain, and you see the mountain and the earth. And I think this is a really interesting reflection here, because if you think of the Empress as Earth, as Gaia, as Mother Earth, as the creator, or the creatrix, we don't even need to put a sex on it, right? It's an infinite building energy. And so where I was getting confused in Anna's talk, and if you happen to have those cards, you might want to throw your 2 cents in here, because when I think of Shiva and Shakti, and through the teachings of Yoga, Shakti, the great feminine, is all that is manifest. So Shakti is the trees and the snow and the books and the desks and all that is here and now. And so Shakti would be the mountain, and Shiva would be the cosmos, all that is unmanifest. So I'm just sort of reflecting on that here, and one does not exist without the other. So I don't know where I'm going with all of this, but I want to honor this relationship between Empress and Emperor, the relationship between 3 and 4. It's like in the 3, there's this building energy, and then in the 4, it all kind of settles down, and we see this material. It becomes real. It's like in the 3, it's not fully realized, and then it settles down and becomes the earth, and that seems to contradict just what I just said. So it's a journey, right? So we have this energy as well as death. And I think this is a great card to sit with, because isn't this a card of growth? We must die in order to grow. Hi, Perry. Welcome. And if you're used to looking at the associations by reduction, this might not sit well. But generally speaking, in Tarot de Marseille, the associations are by the second number. We can't have birth without death. We can't have growth without. And I'm looking out at my vegetable garden in front of us here and thinking about that and all that is alive below the soil, ready to be born. And maybe in this card, you want to speak to the energy of the shield that identifies the printing house, or just the energy of shield in general. And isn't it interesting how we have a shield in the Emperor card? So here, we're looking at all of our stuff. We're looking at all that we have gathered, all that we have made. We are in our glory. And I want to go back to that idea of coins and sun and Manipura, solar plexus chakra, and self-empowerment. And maybe it's through our jobs, through our business, through the way that we make money, that we get to know ourselves and we get to know how strong we are. And, of course, there's other ways we do that, but it's a way that we think how strongly we identify with what we do in this world, what we create, what we make, what sort of a business or a job we have. In English, the question, what do you do, refers to, what business do you do? What kind of work do you do? And it's often one of the initial questions that is asked when you meet somebody new. How often do you meet somebody and they ask you about your spirituality right off the bat, So here we have the 4, this secure. It's a card of, there's a richness here to this, and there's a real footprint. And maybe an owning of the fire. Marteau. Let's go to D. D's comment. And I also want to comment on the flow of the 3 to the floor and the 3 to the floor. The 3 to the 4 and the tree of life as well too. Marteau sees the 3 as the influx of a spiritual order into matter. And that is very much what we see in the tree of life. So the 3 flows through Da'at, through the great abyss, and lands in the 4. The 4 is Jupiter. The 4 is a greatness. It's where we see this fulfillment of what was born in the 3. I very much resonates with what D is sharing here. And let's remember that it's a tool that lets things shine. And I shared with you last week another expression. Hello, Arya. Yes, Crowley calls this card power. And again, another word that tends to take on a negative connotation. Um, and your assets, I talked about this last week, your assets are not just necessarily um, tangible things. Your assets are your skills. Your assets, your asset is your wisdom, your ability to verbalize, to vocalize, to communicate. And I think our assets are reflected in the suit of coins. And this is a card that shows our strength of asset. Wouldn't that be interesting to call a suit of coins a suit of assets? We have another 4. Really interesting card to come up with a 4 in a reading. And this reminder that temperance is a 4, I think, helps us to understand why in the Waite-Smith deck, in many Waite-Smith and Waite-Smith inspired cards, you're looking at a negative aspect of the 4 rather than the balancing and the solidity, safety that it creates. I mentioned the word sacred when I was talking about the Hanged Man, but I think also it's an important word for me for all of the 4s. There is something sacred space in all of the 4s. In order for the 4 to remain stable, there needs to be a sense of harmony and a sense of balance. What about if you look at the 4 as a double 2? Just let me get a card in hand. I'm not sure I've really had that thought before. So what if the 4 is a double 2? And what if you thought about that in terms of temperance? I don't know what you want to do with that, but I think we need to remember the relationship between 2 and 4 and 8. Because in the 8, we see the 8 as a 2, a 2, a 2, and a 2. This is really cool. Notice how the shield in the 4 becomes a coin in the 5. Or let's say that in a different way. The shield in the 4 becomes an asset in the 5. And I mentioned last week about how I see this card as something that is almost being pushed through the 4. We see that solid 4 shape, and then it's the pressure of the 4 that creates something. And this only expands on the way that I view the 5 when I'm working with a Waite-Smith or Waite-Smith inspired deck, in that we can't linger too long in the 4s. There's just this natural urgency to go forward. Something has to move, something has to change. And it feels like similar energy. Now, the Pope or the Hierophant or the wise one, who is the 5, helps us to make sense of that, to understand this. It's like there's this natural force that's pushing us forward, that wants us to be greater, that wants us to um, move through things. Yeah. I look forward to a comment later, Jen, when you, yeah, thank you. Enjoy your walk with your dog. Um, Jen says here, the Marseille fours remind me of a school project I did with my son where we divided the shield into fours and drew something. Yeah, it's not interesting that we often do that. I've seen lots of school projects, lots of different classrooms where that's a project. So what does that mean? The shield becomes a coin. What does that mean to you? Mm. And isn't it interesting that the emperor sort of looks back at all that he has, but the Pope looks forward? And if you have the Pope and the emperor in the same card, they're looking at each other. And then the 15th arcanum, of course, is the devil. So discernment, good choices, um, looking at all sides of the story, understanding what motivates us, knowing that we may take the wrong path, but we also have the ability to go back and edit. There's no shame in editing, revising, because the 5 is a period of growth and challenges. And if you read the devil as playfulness and living life and the richness of life, then yeah, I mean the 5s are about living life. And I think about maybe the 5 of coins in other decks, and it's a choice, it's a decision to go on, and we know we're not always going to be comfortable. Aria, protection. Let's go here. Protection yields to trade, as what I have may be translated to something I don't have until I recognize that both sides are allowed to prosper. Does our culture encourage specialization rather than diversity? It's just a question. I don't know how the answer to this, but I feel like in the 5, with what Ari is just saying, that it's both sides. Okay, how about this? What I was saying here with the ace being, and then the 2 being a half. So think about this card as a 2 and a 2 plus a 1. That takes on a different energy for me. But when I think of the 2 and the 2, the different aspects of self, again, this is kind of like a 3, but it's not so clean and clear. It's getting muddy. It's getting muddy. And also when I think of earth and coins and this suit, I need to remember that earth does, it's also about the mud. It's about our journey through the mud. Hello, Saska Rose. Namaste. I think sometimes the negative connotations that we see in illustrated coin cards are a reminder of that lotus metaphor, that we must navigate the challenges, the mud of life in order to emerge. And here we are, halfway through this rather muddy suit with the devil and the Hierophant. I mean, it's a world of contradictions, it's a world of confusion and challenges. Yeah. When I look at six, I love the traditional layout of the six. So we have the four, and then we have the growth on either end of the four. And I'm thinking about what I just said, and it's almost as if, so we have the family of four, and then we have two children, and they're each going in their own way, and they each reflect in a way the foundation from which they grow, rather than looking at it like in the La Corte de Tarocchi, the the building, because six, I like the number six. It is for me always the number of the heart chakra, and there's this place of beauty and peace. And for a moment, this is a perfect little dining table, a perfect little family. I'm looking at it now. I'm thinking, okay, this is a table for six, a table laid for six. And when I look at it in this configuration, it's like three versus three, as opposed to what I was describing earlier in that shape. It relates to how people describe themselves as, yes, the identification with their job. Parents have aspirations for their children, a good job to protect them. Hmm. Maybe another, maybe a reading that is heavy in coins is a reminder about that identification. Because the Lover's card, as it's drawn in the Tarot de Marseille, is that question. It's that choice of how we're going to shift that identification away from mom to wife, from family to the new family that we're creating. And then also, it's a 3 plus a 3. So we see an upward facing triangle and a downward facing triangle all sitting together here. So again, that's the 6. That's the heart chakra. That's the Tiferet, Sephira. Marry into money. Ooh. Yeah, that could be an interpretation, Dee. You know, sort of one of those questions where somebody asks, who am I going to marry, or what am I going to marry, and what am I going to marry into? Yeah. Hmm. Oh, I didn't look at the other. Okay, sorry. I need to go back. I need to go back to the 6 because we have this other 6. So let's just for a moment. I just want to address the Tower. The Tower as a 6. And perhaps the relationship between the choice, the shift of energy that we are being asked to reflect on in the Lover's card, versus it's like if we if we are unwilling to make the change ourselves, then nature will make it for us. Spirit will make it for us. So what does the Tower have to do with the 6s? I think it's just that lesson that comes over and over again, that we let's cherish and honor and live and love moments of contentment and peace and beauty, but know that they don't last forever. They will change. It will change. And this is not just a negative card. This is a card of evolution, evolvement. I think it gets us to it helps us. It helps us out in the world. Arya offers the heavens speak in both 6 and 16, regardless of what we want for ourselves. And depending on your question and what you're working with, what does it mean to take the crown off or to knock the crown off? How do you feel when that crown is knocked off? And again, I think about that poor elk in the lily white tarot that's released its antlers. So let's go to all the 7s. It's funny how certain cards just stick with us and are forever etched. So the one I'm referring to is a deck by Celia Melville, and her Tower card has an elk foreground in a forest fire that it's lost its very heavy and large rack. So it's standing there very vulnerable and naked. But the promise is that that rack will regrow. And so, yeah, we do. We have this connection. There's so many mythological connections with the Tower and the church and the Hierophant, and the history of this card is really interesting. Thank you for that, Dee. Okay, so 7. Most often, 7 is 4 on the bottom and 3 on the top. We have something really interesting reversed in this deck here. We have 3 and 4. That may influence the way you read that card. It feels a little heavy, a little top heavy. You might, when I look at this card, I can see all different kinds of shapes and things that are growing. And I like this card. It's showing tenacity and movement and progress on the journey for sure. I don't know why I don't have the Chariot card there. The Chariot card should be there. It must have been stuck underneath the Devil or something. But 7, of course, is Chariot, and 7 is, it's a tipping off place, right? It's a place where it's the card of graduation. It's the card of moving out. It's the card of big changes. And the Chariot also has the 4 shape on the bottom and then the triangle on the top. Mind you, the triangle is it's a upward facing triangle with the charioteer's head at the top, as opposed to the downward facing triangle that we see in the traditional Marseille on the top. But either way you cut it, we've got 3 on top of a 4. I like that, Saska. Thank you. It looks like choices on a path. Believe in the ability to live in a place of abundance, in seeking to be of service to the people who are in your path, selflessness, and the way to find harmony with each potential activity. In a way, when I look at the way that this deck is showing it, it's almost like this coin here is going to push through and move these two to the outside. It's like this is the chariot, the charioteer moving through, and it would take some strength and some determination to plow through. One thing I haven't discussed is all of the artwork that's going on at the top of the La Corte de Tarot, because there are subtle messages in the pictures at the top of these cards as well too. It's a really interesting question, Aria. I know. It's almost, I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it, but we become there's an integration of self that happens there. And even though I've studied the tarot for years, I get so confused always with the Lover's card. And the first septenary is a journey into self. It's a journey of understanding of self. And just as part of that journey, we explore it in relationship. But it is an emergence of self, and it's about self. And that's what we see in the Chariot, is that emergence of self. And you could, if you were working with this, you could see the 2 horses as the lovers and the charioteer as the third person. I mean, there's lots of ways we could portray that. And we'll look more closely at the shifting energy of the humans in the deck when we get to the majors. Let's go to D. Aria, perhaps our warrior has a partner waiting for them at home as they're off in the chariot. And remember that the chariot has stars and moons. The canopy overhead it's inspiring. And maybe that in itself is a connection to the star, is the overhead canopy with the stars on it. There's a promise in this card. There's a promise of deep understanding about which way we are going. Keep your eye on, keep your focus. And maybe that's why I mean, I'm just making up stories here, but maybe that's why this pathway is so narrow, is because we need to focus on the path forward. And again, we have a brilliant sun infusing energy in this card. Isn't all of the tarot about moving, right? We want to keep moving, keep going. And I think where people get stuck, when things start to go sideways in life, it's when we forget about that. We forget about change. We forget about the ever evolving story of our lives. We get too comfortable in the comfortable. You're funny, Saskia. But yes, we can't lose ourself in the marriage, right? We still need to know who we are as an individual, for sure. Okay, how are we doing for time? I think we can do this. Okay, so 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, 4 plus 4. This is a strong building energy. For me and the yogis and the energy workers out there, this is, I think this is a sign of having rewritten a groove. And what I mean by that is when we are, if you believe that we've come into this world to learn our lessons and to, we're constantly refining who we are and we choose these adventures. I mean, you could look at this as one of those choose your adventure books, right? And if we continue to discern and learn and grow, this 8 is a sign of doing well, being on path. And when I look at this card, I think, okay, this is good. This is solid. But it's also long, right? It's the journey is long. The journey is, it takes time. It takes steps. And if we are conscious of this need for constant correction, then justice is a really good card. The tarot is a great storyteller. It's so great. Justice. Yeah. I hope that these conversations are inspiring you to, they're certainly inspiring me to be, it's like you weave all these bits and pieces together and you can get some great readings with these cards that appear so simple. But we have so much information to build on, right? And so the other 8 card, and this is an interesting connection, is the moon. So what do we know about the moon and the emergence of the scorpion or the crab from the water there? Well, when I think about this card, and I like how this one is set up the same way as the others too, it's that this journey through here, and you know how in the Waitsmith you can see the path that's going through here? Yeah, it's a long and winding road. Let's all sing the Beatles. It's a long and winding road, but it's a great road. And the thing is, just stay on the road, right? Be the charioteer, be the scorpion, be ever evolving. I like that part where you say, we have found our power, we have found our groove. It all works out in our maturity. We all should only be so lucky. Yeah. Nine. I like how the tarot reminds us constantly to reflect. It's through reflection. It's like we go and we pause. We move a little bit more and then we pause. And it's really interesting. I'm looking at this card and then the way that this one is drawn. And I'm thinking, okay, so here's the hermit and he's going to go into his cave. And this is the cave. This is all the stones of the cave. And then when I look at this formation, I see these really solid foundations. And again, maybe this is the cave. This is the cave that we go into, and we don't understand the gold until we go into the cave. We need to be brave enough to go into the cave. So in the moon card, the scorpion was, or the crab, or what is it? The crawfish is emerging from the water. But in the hermit card, we're saying, yeah, but you need to keep looking below the surface. Always looking below the surface. And that's part of this weaving of the tarot, because with hermit energy, then we can flow back into the justice card of the 8 and understand our karmas. And if we embrace this energy, then we have that beautiful flow of 9889, 9889, and 10. And so this is the final card, right? This is the final single number. This is the third 9. This is a really important card, sort of integrating all of the 9s together. It's full of abundance and richness. I love that title, The Fourfold Mirror of the Universe. Hmm. And then, oh, sorry, there's another 9. So I think the sun here on the final 9. So this is the final 9. This is the 9 of coins. We have lots of coins here. There's a sense of abundance and richness, and everything is flourishing and it all is well. It is a sign of birth for sure. And yet, what I said in terms of the hermit is that we can't really understand it until we look at it in the darkness. And I think that's something that's a really important connection of this. And so the 9s in general are cards of reflection. They are a triple 3. They're a triple Trinity card full of divinity. Readings that have lots of 9s, I just feel like, whoa, they're a big message from Spirit, big message from God. And then we get to the 10. And so here we are at the wheel of coins, the wheel of change. We are looking at our legacy, and it will turn. And so, again, let's for a moment smile and honor and reflect. As this is a 10, it is also a 1. And the energy of, let's remember that the energy of all of these coins is a part of that single ace. They each are a tenth of that ace. And look at all that we have and all that we've made and all that we've grown with from the potential of that single ace. Yes, yes. And I want to address that difference when we get to the Hermit. Um, I will get there because the Hermit that we see in the Tarot de Marseille is, again, not in the darkness, and we have a little different energy. We'll look at the colors and the implications of the colors of the robe, among other things. Yeah. All right. Hmm. And so on this 9th day of March, the moon is in Pisces, if you are reading with Western tropical astrology. And we are in the energy of the dark moon, new moon tomorrow. And may you all find inspiration and flow through change, and maybe find a intention of change. You know, we sit here in this end of this astrological wheel that is so rich. And I think one of the challenges here is that we can't linger here too long because we're starting a new, again, I want to honor different astrological systems. But with Western tropical astrology, right, we're moving next into Aries, which is a new beginning and associated with spring. So let's count our blessings and use this new moon to be in that richness and blessings of the next fortnight. Yeah, Saria. Okay. And thank you all so much for hanging out with me here. It's wonderful. And I'm going to start next week looking at the court cards. And I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, Dee. A fantastic brain teaser for a Saturday evening. Love that. Okay. Good night. God bless.